The Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
It's Wednesday.
It's a holiday
It is?
season.
It's a holiday season.
Yeah, it's the
Why
playoff
are
bye-week
you-
holiday season.
I mean, you were
Wait,
like,
oh, you're not on a playoff bye-week holiday season? Are you on a bye-week holiday season? No.
In one of my leagues, I
he's
am.
doing this,
Thanks.
Mike.
He's running.
I know he's running
I mean-
in place.
It's interesting. It's an interesting way to start a show. Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. That was Jason Moore.
Howdy.
That's Mike Wright, I think. The fantasy hitman.
You're not sure?
I don't know.
We're on 151 shows, and you're still not sure.
Well, see, on a week in which I refer to you as mortal enemy and not your name
Okay,
because
so
of our fantasy playoffs, it's hard to remember.
I am the one who shall not be named.
Yeah, you're the one that shall not beat me lest I have grand depression. Oh, my goodness. I'm Andy Holloway. I didn't say my name.
You are the one who shall not be named for me.
There you go. So, welcome to the show. This is the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Check us out on the web, thefantasyfootballers.com. We've got our sits of the week on the show today. We're hitting the mailbag, answering questions from the Foot Clan, from the listeners, from those of you that have gone to the website and submitted questions to the show, which is very easy. You just go to the website and click the Submit a Question button. Bam.
That sounds very easy.
It's been very easy for people. And I don't really know the total, but it's in the multi-thousands of questions.
Tens of thousands.
For the year, but it's been a fun year, a very good year. We thank you for joining us on the show today. I'm just going to get into it right off the bat, and we're going to go through the quick questions. We're going to play another game of trivia.
Yes.
And I'm going to pretend to be a player, and you got to guess who I am. Now, how did we decide this was going to work?
This is the way
I'm guessing Brock Osweiler.
the way we decided it would work is we will.
Oh, you each answer, and then I tell you who's right.
Yeah, but we will give the listeners a moment to think about it with us as we think.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
All right, I got it.
it will not be the first to shout out the answer because I win every time when that's the case.
No, you will each get the opportunity to say an answer, and I will not confirm whether you've succeeded until the end.
The fast twitch muscles of these vocal cords,
Right.
you can't even chart. Can't even chart how fast they are.
Okay. All right. Number one. Hey, I've
See?
been the starter for only half of my team's games. Since week 11, I have the most fantasy points for running backs, averaging 24.9 per week.
Ooh. Oh, my.
I'm going to go with a guy that took over a role. That makes sense. Thomas Rawls, your boy, Andy.
Thomas Rawls was my guess as well, so I will stay with that.
That is correct.
Yes.
The answer is Thomas Rawls. That was a bit of a softball.
Did we give a second for them to?
I think there was enough.
No, that's
That
fine.
was enough time.
That was enough time.
Yeah. All right, question number 2. I may be the most consistent player in fantasy football since week 6. From that point on, my fantasy owner will feel comfortable starting me if he wants a player that will get 20 to 24 rush attempts every game, at least 60 yards every game. Week 6 was my turnaround. I've scored double-digit points
This is easy.
in every game except for one, but I've only eclipsed 20 one time, and it is easy.
I think it is very easy. Do you have?
No, I'm drawing a blank over here.
Well,
think for
hold
the,
on then.
All right.
Let's let Mike give him a second.
So since week 6, this player has had 60 yards
I'm gonna get
or
it wrong.
double-digit points.
At least 60 in every game, 20 to 24 rush attempts every week.
I would focus on that number.
Yeah.
The 20 to 24.
Yeah, my friend.
All right, well, go ahead and
I'm
Take a
going to
guess.
say Jonathan Stewart.
oh, that is a great.
He gets a lot of
Yeah.
carries.
I
started the
won't
year
even
slow.
pretend I knew it because I was in my head. All I can think of is Adrian Peterson, but I know he didn't have 60 yards. So
The answer is Jonathan Stewart.
that's very nice.
Extremely consistent since week 6, double digits every single week. J Stu's been doing it, and he's been, cross your fingers, staying healthy.
Oh, I thought you were gonna go as LL Cool J would say. He's been doing it well.
I feel like I have grand regret now.
Wait, now are all these?
Over mentioning Jonathan Stewart and the word injury as the Reaper on playoff week with him in my roster.
I was going to ask: is the next question also on your roster, Andy? Because Thomas Rawls
Oh, that's
and Jonathan
funny.
Stewart are
That's
both
true.
in your league of record roster.
No, he's
right.
not.
Oh.
That's hint number 1.
Clue.
All right, number 3. I've taken a step back this season.
Yes, you have.
I've only scored 2 touchdowns. I haven't scored 20 points in a single week once this year. Fantasy owners thought I would be great because I finished 2014 as a wide receiver 1.
Okay.
it was apparent that these fantasy players believed in me because my ADP was 19th for my position, ahead of Keenan Allen, Brandon Marshall, Sammy Watkins, Jarvis Landry, and Allen Robinson. Who am I?
Man.
I've got two guesses, one of which I think is right, but I also think it's really cheap. Like it's too. I think that there might be multiple answers to this question.
Well,
Oh, no,
it's hard
only
to say with the beginning. I mean, two touchdowns on the year, only scored 20. Haven't scored 20 points in a week.
20. That's the part that's
Yeah.
tripping me up over here.
I think Jason might know it.
Yeah, I think I got it.
Oh wait, I got a guess.
All right.
Demarius Thomas.
That was my second guess, but I think he's got more than 2 touchdowns. My actual one that I think is Dez Bryant.
Oh, that's
no.
Oh.
No.
I'll bet you Dez Bryant fits that bill.
With only 2 touchdowns?
Yeah, I think.
No, I think Dez has more than that.
Does he?
I'm gonna look right now.
The answer
Now I'm intrigued.
is Golden Tate.
Oh,
Was he
Golden
really drafted
Tate.
above those guys?
ADP 19. Very high hopes for Golden Tate. He had a huge year last year.
Des Bryant has 2 touchdowns.
Oh, drafted higher than all those
Has he
guys.
scored more than 20?
I imagine.
Hmm.
Well, maybe. I know he
Yeah.
has 1 game over 100 yards. And
Was
all-
his ADP 19th in his position?
No.
Stop trying to fit it to somebody else.
Yeah.
It's Golden Tate is the answer.
All right.
So you guys did all right. What are your thoughts on Golden Tate?
I like him. I think he's a serviceable guy the rest of the way. I mean, he has not been what he was last year, but he has still averaged over 9 targets a game, which is great. I mean, that's what you want out of a guy. He's had a couple weeks that have been, serviceable. I'm not excited to start him, but he is a guy that, I would say in a pinch.
Part of Golden Tate, his decline from this year is clearly his monster games last year were when Calvin Johnson was out of the lineup and he went ultimate ham on everybody and his pace was out of control. Now when Calvin Johnson came back, he was still a very solid wide receiver for fantasy. But this year the entire Lions offense has just been a disaster until the savior of Detroit, Jim Bob Cooter, stepped in. And he's been pumping up that offense ever since.
Is Jim Bob Cooter in charge of the Hail Mary defense?
No.
Okay.
Luckily, that is not his
That's
job.
been an issue then. That's been an issue. Okay, let's go ahead and hit some news.
News and notes from around the league.
All right, not a ton to add to what we got to yesterday, and we'll have more information about injury reports as the practice reports come out throughout the remainder of the week, heading into week 14. However, what are you hearing, Mike, from your very favorite head coach, your favorite injury reporter, John Fox?
My good close personal friend John Fox has said that Kevin White, first-round pick wide receiver for the Chicago Bears, will play if he's cleared. And we know he was put on the PUP list with that leg problem.
All right, there's only one thing that makes me want to ask you is, does it hurt Alshon Jeffrey?
No.
Okay. Ryan Matthews has returned to practice. He did that on Tuesday. What do we expect from him this week?
I got to assume it's a full return to practice because it was a concussion. So I want to make sure and wait and see whether it was limited or full. But if it's a full participation on Tuesday, it's going to go the rest of the week, given what happened last week with DeMarco Murray. I think, if you're in a pinch.
It's going to be a hot topic.
Yeah, it will be a hot topic. I'm sure there's a lot of questions with that. When we finish our rankings, get them up tonight, I'm curious where I'm going to have him statted out because he has been productive this year in a backup role. And I think you're starting to see where, what's the over-under, would you say, on his carries this week? Let's say he practices all week. Where would you just
I will set the over-under at
8?
That's what I was thinking.
I was going to go 10, but yeah.
So you'd go over?
Yeah. I'll take the over.
I would take the over if the number's 8. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I think that's enough work to get you. I mean, I'd much rather have Ryan Matthews than an Antonio Andrews this week.
Yeah. So, hey, here's a question people have asked a lot on Twitter. I don't think we've addressed it enough on the show, but Seahawks coach Pete Carroll came out and he said that the recovery from Marshawn Lynch could take longer than the team initially reported or expected.
That's weird.
We, I think, assumed as much. I mean, a lot of people did, not just us. That being said, people want to know, can you just drop Marshawn Lynch?
In redraft?
Both. Answer to both. Because in a redraft, or if you need a spot, he's doing you nothing in a dynasty and you're fighting in the playoffs. So can you drop him?
The dynasty, no. I'm not taking that risk just in the chance that he comes back. I think there's quite a consensus thought that this will be the last year of Marshawn Lynch in Seattle.
Says all of us 3 years in a row.
Yeah, but they have a guy. Like there is a guy behind him now
right.
Where clearly Kristen Michael or Robert Turbin were never seen as guys who can replace.
Are you talking about the number one running back since week 11?
Yeah.
Thomas Rawls?
Yeah, so they have a guy who is considerably cheaper. I believe he's getting about $450,000 compared to $10 million. So a guy, if he can produce for that much cheaper, it would not shock me if they go the other way. But you can't take that risk right now in Dynasty. Redraft, I would cut him.
Yeah, redraft. There's no point in having Marshawn Lynch.
It's just, will he recover and be back by week 16?
If you have an IR, then don't drop him. Move him to the IR. If you don't, then I would definitely rather be playing keep away. I would use that spot to play keep away from an opponent on a waiver wire than I would to just hold on to Lynch personally.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we get into our sits of the week and the mailbag on today's show, I want to thank our sponsor, Harry's. They help make this show what it is, and we love Harry's. Now we've got the holiday season, and I'm going to tell you something right now. I love giving a great gift, and I hate trying to figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
Because that's tough.
It is.
I want both. I want an easy option, something that's great that people will enjoy but doesn't take me forever to figure out and get it together. And I'm telling you right now, if you want a great gift idea, you need to head over to harrys.com. We've all used Harry's, their shaving equipment, and when you get it in the mail, when you get Harry's, the thing that I like the most about it, yes, it shaves amazingly, right? But it feels like a quality product. You know you're not paying a fortune to shave, but you're getting something that's actually high quality. You can tell the second you open the box, the second you hold the razor in your hand.
And the packaging, if we're talking gifts here, the packaging that it comes in is just awesome.
Top notch.
Top notch. It looks great. It is great. Myself, Andy, we use it, every day. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And Harry's has holiday shaving sets at different price points starting at $15. $15, and you can't go wrong with Harry's. We've been talking about them on the show forever because we love them, and we've heard it from the listeners as well. So listen, go to harrys.com right now, and as a special offer for fans of this show, Harry will give you $5 off your first order with the code FOOTBALLERS. So don't wait. Economy shipping for the holidays ends on December 18th, so act right now. That's harrys.com, HARRYS.com. Enter the code FOOTBALLERS, and Harry's makes every morning feel like a holiday.
Whew.
And that's the truth. So let's move on.
Sits of the week.
Keep apologizing, Mike.
No.
What do you do around here?
I don't know.
What do you do around here?
I make...
You've been promising to fix that drop for 3 weeks.
Ever since the Disneyland trip. He's
been gone.
Well, we talked about this yesterday, that I checked out about 75 shows ago. So...
Sits of the week. A lot of people's favorite segment of the week.
Yes.
Unless they've been listening to us sit Russell Wilson.
Well, then let's start at the quarterback position.
Who are you going to sit, Jason?
I am going to sit this week in a prime, juicy matchup against pretty much the third best matchup. I am going to sit Russell Wilson, and this is an honorary selection.
You're not really sitting Russell Wilson.
No way am
You're
I
not
sitting
as dumb
Russell
as
Wilson.
Mike and I.
Yeah, I didn't choose that.
You know the best.
But I'm making an honorary selection so that everyone out there who has Russell Wilson can have full confidence to start.
He will explode.
He's going ham.
And Jason will 100% take credit if Russell Wilson has a bad game. He'll say, "Oh, I sat him." Remember?
Yep.
Check out the audio.
All right, but
you guys
my
realize
actual...
you can't say going ham anytime within an hour of lunch because I just get hungry.
Yeah, and we're in the Christmas season. Want a honey baked? That's a little free advertisement out there. HB
for honey baked
for honey baked ham, the generic. It's an ad for ham. We're getting some free ads for ham.
Honey baked ham isn't generic. Are you kidding me? All right.
Chocolate.
Here's
free
my
ad for
actual-
chocolate. They're going to make a fortune.
If you haven't had chocolate this holiday season, check out chocolate. All right, so getting back
Use
to
the promo
some
code BALLERS
fantasy-
when you buy chocolate.
and we'll put on 15 extra pounds
At your
for
grocery
free.
store.
Yeah,
All
you
right.
look like, just tell them. Just repeat the code to them. All right, we'll start this over again. Real sit of the week for Jason.
Real set of the week is Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan was still started in over 30% of the leagues. Why would you do that? Please stop it. If you have him, I would say you can drop him. You do not need him. He plays Carolina twice in the playoffs, and one of those is this week.
Give me Bortles. Give me Winston. Give me anybody else.
Anybody else. Matt Ryan is
Nick
at the bottom of
Foles?
the barrel.
Give me almost anybody else. I'll take
Case-
Matt Ryan over Nick
Case
Foles.
Keenum?
Give me Matt Ryan over
All right.
Case Keenum.
So, okay.
All right,
That's good.
so-
Good to hear.
There's a certain 5 or 6 names that you just don't even put into consideration. But all right, my quarterback sit of the week. I'm going to go with a guy that I have a hard time sitting just in general, getting over the mental hurdle of sitting him. But Phillip Rivers, it's not your year. It's just not. And that team, the offense, losing Keenan Allen really was the biggest blow to that offense. Woodhead's done nothing. And Rivers now gets to travel to Kansas City, who's fighting for the playoffs, who's been playing incredibly, who might have Justin Houston back. And in San Diego last time they played, he only put up 8. I mean, this is just not a good matchup for Phillip Rivers. So I don't put him in consideration. There's so many other guys.
And Stevie Johnson left last game with a groin pull, so we don't even know his status.
And
yet.
Dontrell Inman left with a neck injury.
Yeah.
There's just nobody left.
No good. But the easiest.
So throughout
Sit
the
of the
year, I've come on completely on board with this guy, and I had several times throughout the show where I said I will stop doubting this particular player. We have a drop that's become infamous. I would like to play it now in recognition.
Wait.
Of
Where
him.
is it? Where is it? Oh.
Send in the car. Send in the car.
As in, don't send in Derek Carr because he is playing against Denver. Now, he did okay when he traveled to Denver. He put up about 250 and a touchdown, but that's just not going to get it done in your fantasy playoffs. He's not a guy I can trust going up against the best defense in the league. I'm sitting him down.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Derek Carr. I do believe in you, but there's just so many better options this
There's
week.
different matchups, yeah. All right. It's time. We're going to go ahead and talk about running back sits of the week. I'm going to go with a guy that Mike disagrees with.
Yes.
I think that you are you're risking a lot by starting and trusting Jeremy Hill this week. I know they're in Cincinnati, but you're playing Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's rushing defense has been outstanding. The last time these two teams met up, Jeremy Hill had 15 for 60, and I think the offense only is I think it's ascending for Pittsburgh. So I think this is a high-scoring game, and a high-scoring game, I think Gio Bernard's on the field more than Jeremy Hill. So, yes, we've said Jeremy Hill's on fire. He's had 3 good weeks, but last week was against Cleveland, and I'm pumping the brakes, and I'm going to put him on my bench.
Yeah, I understand the playing the matchup. I personally think that the
Are you starting him against me?
well I have to decide between him and Amendola for my flex.
Right.
So I haven't made that decision yet, but I think the team is getting Hill back on track. But I don't completely disagree with the sitting of him. And my sit of the week at the running back position, I'm going with DeMarco Murray. We've talked about Ryan Matthews as back at practice.
Sit of the year.
And DeMarco Murray, even if Ryan Matthews was out this week, he's just not a guy I'm going to trust. I understand that Murray owners may not have a better option, but if you have anything that has a better matchup than DeMarco Murray, who's playing against the Buffalo Bills, who have their defense, while they were a little lapsed last week, they've been quite good. I'm not playing DeMarco Murray against the Bills.
Yeah, I can see that. That was one of the guys in my consideration as well. I'm going to give a small 2-pack of low-hanging fruit here. The first is C.J. Anderson. C.J. Anderson, the reason why I'm giving 2 is because he might not even play this week. But if he
inactive of the week,
right? So, but if he does play and he's on your roster, I would advise you to try to find someone else. Last time he hurt his ankle, he didn't come back strong. It looked, like it affected his game. So I'm not going to trust him in a timeshare with a hurt ankle if he is playing. The other guy is equally a low-hanging fruit, but he has still started in 0.25% of the leagues and owned in almost every league.
0.25%?
Sorry, 25%.
Okay, big difference.
Big difference.
Math.
Yeah.
I was tuned out for a second. I even heard that one.
Yeah.
Almost nobody is
Almost.
playing this guy.
One guy in Saskatchewan is starting him, and I want him on a bench. All right,
Yeah.
go ahead. Continue.
Yeah, that. So my guy is do not start Melvin Gordon. I mean,
Okay.
he's playing in Kansas City. Stop it. He hasn't been good all year. He fumbled last game, so we don't even know his workload. I would put in almost anyone. I would put in guys off of the waiver. I would play Charles Sims over Melvin Gordon. I mean, I just don't expect anything from Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the workload has really changed. That the Chargers are really trying to get Melvin Gordon going, and it's just not working. And that's a horrific defense to get it going against.
All right. Well, we're talking wide receiver sits. I'm going to go with a guy that I think probably should be cut in a lot of leagues if you have a need for a
Really?
spot.
You're gonna cut him?
Yes. Yeah, and that's Randall Cobb. At a minimum, what I wrote down here was sit his butt down.
Yeah.
Sit him down. Last week he had 11 points. He had 11 points because he fell on a fumble in the end zone. Otherwise, he was 4 for 29. He is not getting involved in the offense. He has not done it for, I think, 8 consecutive weeks in single digits. I think if I had to sign, I'd sign Devontae Parker and I'd cut Randall Cobb. Because I want upside and I want to win my playoffs, and I'm not going to win my playoffs with Randall Cobb unless he has a resurgent game out of nowhere. And it really, at this point, would be out of nowhere. So and he plays Dallas this week. And
Yeah.
Dallas's defense is very good against the pass. They're 5th against the pass. So I'm sorry. His name is delicious, but his meal is not.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. I talked yesterday about, in our own league of record, the possibility that I might drop Randall Cobb, and that's even in a keeper league. Obviously, he would be picked up by someone else. But my wide receiver this week to sit is playing Denver. And we know – I mean, we know still –
Can it be 2? I'll let you include both if you want.
Sure. Yeah,
Go for
I've
it.
got Amari Cooper as my sit, but let's throw Crabtree in there as well. What are you expecting? What's the upside there?
The roof starts to sink. You got a real low ceiling on both those guys.
Yeah, I mean, you sit both of them down. Wide receivers are so deep. You can find guys. Devontae Parker's a perfect example. Play Devontae Parker over these guys because you have the potential. That's not to say that Devontae Parker is clearly going to outscore them, but the potential to have a monster game in a playoff matchup is there with Devontae Parker. The Denver Broncos have given up one touchdown to all wide receivers all year.
Is that like the inverse of the Chiefs' offense of last year?
Yes.
It's almost the same thing where the Chiefs' wide receivers couldn't score all year long.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Not a good matchup.
Yep, just be aware of the matchup and find other options to play.
The guy that I'm going to sit at the wide receiver position has been a darling of our show because he gets the targets, and that is Kamar Aiken of the Baltimore Ravens. The matchup is just too bad against the Seahawks. Schaub was already banged up last week. It probably will not take much to get him out of the game. And then you are dealing with Jimmy Clausen throwing the ball. I'm just not going to trust Kamar Aiken in this situation.
I don't blame you at all. Yeah, and Matt Schaub, reports came out that he's going to stay the starter, but, I mean, it's not a pretty picture. So
because you got to play Schaub over Clausen, who was just recently signed, but the Seahawks are firing on all cylinders right now, especially their defense that just shut down Antonio Brown and completely shut down Minnesota.
All right, tight ends.
My tight end sit of the week is Kyle Rudolph because he's taking on Arizona. I put him on the list because Minnesota needs to win. So if you're wanting to play the narrative angle of they're going to bring it, they just got embarrassed last week. Sometimes we like a team to turn it around completely after that type of a situation, but I don't think it's going to happen for Arizona. And Kyle Rudolph is not a guy that I'm going to depend on, even though he's had a couple good weeks here in recent memory. I'm not going to put Kyle Rudolph in against Arizona.
I think it's very fair. I'm going to take the book into my quarterback start of the week. Phil Rivers was my sit down, and I'm going to sit Antonio Gates. Yes, they don't have a lot of options there, and maybe he gets you some small baseline, but Kansas City's the number one team against guarding tight ends, guarding tight ends, and he had 2.5 fantasy points last time they played. I'm not excited about rolling Gates out there. I know you probably don't have another option, so maybe you have to. I still think you probably start Gates over, Will Tye from New York or that category of tight ends, but I'm not. You need to win. You're playing a big seed. You might need to swing for the fences, play ASJ, play Richard Rodgers, play somebody else that gives you a shot.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to go with a guy who had a great week this last week. So you wonder, is this a trend? Can we see this again? But this, I believe, came out of nowhere for him. He had a long stretch run of nonsense games, and that's Charles Clay. Yeah, I mean,
and we don't put up with nonsense.
We don't
on
put
this
up
show.
with that. Charles Clay is facing the Philadelphia Eagles, who've been giving up a lot of points through the air. But what you don't realize is they've been giving up very few to the tight end. It's all going to the wide receivers. Scott Chandler did get a touchdown this last week, but that was one of 4 touchdowns through the air. Most of them were going to the wide receiver position. You've got, you talked about Sammy Watkins.
I love Sammy. He'll probably be my start of the week.
Right. So, I mean, I see that. I love Tyrod Taylor and Sammy Watkins, but I'm not having the same love for Charles Clay in that matchup.
All right, that does it for our sits of the week. Let's go ahead and get into the mailbag.
Me. Mailbag.
That's pretty nice.
I warmed up.
You did. It sounds so much better.
Bumblebee.
Stop it.
McKenna
Hey, McKenna.
in Atlanta. Hey guys, I love your show. I was 1-5 to start the season. I'm now in 3rd place in my league at 8-5.
Oh, tremendous.
And going to the playoffs. Who should I start in my flex? Is it Buck Allen against the Sea Chickens?
Yeah, take that. You got him.
David
you
Johnson.
got him good.
David Johnson against the Vikings. Martavis Bryant against the Bengals, or Allen Hurns against the Colts.
And it's a standard league. Because it's a standard league, I'm going to rule out Buck Allen. I don't think he's going to get it done on the ground, and his 12 receptions last week are going down as well, and you're not going to get points for them. So
I know who I'm starting in this group.
For me,
I do as well.
It's Martavis Bryant.
It is
Yeah.
Martavis Bryant for me,
That's
too.
mine.
David Johnson would be
Second.
for me.
I agree completely. All right, Mike in New York.
New York City?
No, just New York.
New York?
Oh, my goodness. Who to start at running back? Hey, look, it's Buck Allen again versus Seahawks, or Todd Gurley against the Lions. I'm really feeling Buck, but I'm terrified to bench Gurley.
Now, this is a full
This is
PPR. So
Gurley.
It really flips it on its head here.
Gurley.
I'm starting
huh?
Gurley.
I'm starting Gurley. I love the fact that they changed their offensive coordinator, and I expect Gurley to get the ball 30 times no matter the game flow. I mean, that's a little hyperbolic, but I think they're going to give him the rock.
Like 29.
It's hard. I understand that the defensive matchup is horrific, but PPR, a guy who got 12 catches last week, I got to go with Buck Allen.
It's very fair.
Now, here's how I see some of the difference. If you need a big blow-up game, I don't see Buck Allen doing it. I see Buck Allen being the guy that, hey, he's going to get enough catches where he gives you a baseline and is serviceable. And maybe Todd Gurley gets shut down again, and maybe, this is just, hey, he had a bum knee, and he came back, and this is rookie season. He's hitting the rookie wall. And so for a floor, I actually think Buck Allen's is higher in a PPR. But if you're in the playoffs playing against a really good team and you need total points, I think, Gurley's got the better chance of going off.
Can you live with yourself if Todd Gurley puts up 38 on your bench?
Here's the yardage that Detroit is allowing on the ground to running backs. Last week, 41 yards, 64 yards, 44 yards, 42 yards. I mean,
Those are the last 4 weeks?
yeah. Since the Lions have made a change after their bye week,
Yeah.
they have shut down the running game.
And they can stack the box against Gurley. I'm switching.
All right.
Because of the full PPR, I'm switching.
Persuaded.
Not because I
Okay,
think he
now real
can have a
quick,
bigger blow-up
here-
game, but because he's going to
Okay.
have an okay game.
Okay. Now, here are the last 3 weeks of yards given up by
On
the
ground,
Seahawks.
on the ground.
35, 29, 37,
Well, that's good for me facing Buck Allen in our league. But it sounds like both have bad matchups. That's what it really sounds like.
So I'm going with the PPR aspect.
That's
now.
right.
I'm going to sneak those catches.
Because they're going to be down. And he's going to be on the field. And it's just going to be inevitable. He might Darren McFadden himself a decent game. All right, Steven Charlotte, he wants to know, and we've kind of answered this inadvertently through our sits of the week, but who should he start? Allen Hurns against the Colts, Kamar Aiken against the Seahawks, or Amari Cooper against the Broncos?
Hurns.
I agree.
Now,
And Hurns is in.
Yeah, I was going to say, what is your feeling of Hurns? He had a bad week and then got injured and missed a week. Are you is he just back?
Yep.
Yeah, I'll plug him right back.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll plug him.
All right, Nick in New York City.
New York City.
There you go.
Bonjour.
Kind of lost it. Bonjour. No, you're ruining Bonjour. Leave Bonjour alone. Do I start McFadden at the Packers or James White at the Texans?
Full point PPR.
Also, P.S.
Mailbag, yeah.
Yeah, he included that in text form, which, by the way, that is 13 G's in Mailbag when you sing it.
Man, how do you mailbag?
I'm going to go with
That's a hard vowel to
I'm going to go
The
Darren
13G,
McFadden.
yeah.
Darren McFadden here. The Packers defense has given up plenty. As crazy as it is, the Dallas Cowboys are playing for the playoffs. This game matters to them, and they're going to be running the ball on Darren McFadden's shoulders despite the 2 fumbles this week. And in a full-point PPR, I mean, it's still, McFadden catches the ball too, so I'm going McFadden.
I would go McFadden just because I feel safer that I'm going to get points. James White could easily outscore him, but James White could easily give you 0 points. So
All right.
I would go with McFadden.
Yeah. George in Glendale, Arizona, is there any reason to start Bilal Powell over Chris Ivory going forward in a PPR league? The snap count last week looked to be in Powell's favor.
Yeah, we talked about this, that the snap count was in Powell's favor because the Jets were playing from behind. So I don't expect that to be the norm. I think Chris Ivory will still be
this week against Tennessee. We expect the Jets to be leading that game.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, I would.
There's almost no situation. Even let's say they were playing in a couple weeks, right? They're going to be playing the New England Patriots. They're going to be behind in that game,
maybe
right?
then. Yeah.
Would you consider starting Powell over Ivory?
Because it's PPR, I would consider it. But this week, I would still go with Chris Ivory.
Okie dokie.
Sal in Connecticut.
That's the championship week too, right?
Week 16?
Yeah.
Well,
I think
for
that's when
most.
when
they
say
play the
that's
Patriots?
when they play the Patriots.
I'm not sure. Sal in Connecticut. Hey, guys, I have both Big Ben at the Bengals and Russell Wilson at the Ravens on my roster. Wonder who I should start for Week 14.
Well, Russell Wilson is my clear set of the week. So.
That is a really tough decision.
That is really tough. I mean, you saw the last time that Big Ben and Andy Dalton went head-to-head that it was a lower scoring defensive struggle. And, you get that a lot of times in those, conference matchups. Russell Wilson at the Ravens, I mean, he has been on fire. How do you sit him in that matchup?
Yeah, but here's a question for you. In the last 4 games started for Big Ben, how many times has he thrown under 330 yards?
0.
The answer is 0.
If this is a 4-point per touchdown league, he says it's standard, which I think that is what is foolishly still considered standard. Then I lean Russell Wilson, but I love both options, and I don't think you're gonna go wrong.
I'm gonna go with Big Ben. I don't feel 100% great about that. These guys are gonna be very close in the rankings. AJ in Charleston. Who do I play at wide receiver? Eric Decker versus the Titans. Jordan Matthews at the Bears. Marvin Jones versus the Steelers. Or Deshaun, punt returner supreme, Jackson versus the Bills.
Oh, that's a tough one.
Marvin Jones is out for me on this list. You've got big play potential in Deshaun Jackson. He's probably your highest upside guy, but I'm going to go safe here because it's not just safe with a crappy game. He's been good all year. I'm going to go Eric Decker.
You got to go with the guy who is his name sounds like a dysfunctioning system in ED with Eric Decker.
Wow, that was a long road to mediocre humor.
I thought it was one
I'm
of my
sure
better
the-
jokes.
I'm sure the
well,
listeners,
it was one of your. It can be mediocre
Yeah.
humor and one of your better jokes.
That's not mutually exclusive.
Thanks,
So,
guys.
You're going with Eric Decker.
Yeah, Eric Decker.
All right, let's move on to the next question as fast as we can.
Leroy in Tampa. Jameis Winston versus the Saints, or Ryan Fitzpatrick versus the Titans. Do you take the upside that is the Saints matchup, or do you stay in the flames with Ryan Fitzpatrick, who also has a nice matchup?
Start of the week versus start of the week.
It's a very, very close matchup. To
You've
me.
gotta
I would
answer
play
this one.
Jameis Winston.
I would play Ryan Fitzpatrick because I know what I'm going to get with Fitzpatrick.
Ryan Fitzpatrick is safer, higher upside as Jameis Winston.
Okay.
No,
you
what?
disagree?
I don't know if safer is exactly what I would use with Fitzpatrick.
Really?
I would say it's been pretty darn safe to play a quarterback against the New Orleans Saints over the course of this year.
Yes.
And Ryan Fitzpatrick has had, he had a 19, 20. I guess he's safe, but I mean, Winston's been around that range. I think it's a coin flip. So for me, I'm going to take Winston. It's
All
okay. I mean, either way. I mean, Tennessee's passing defense is like top 5.
They weren't
Yeah, but
top
not the
5
last
against
few
I know
weeks.
they
Like
weren't last
Bortles.
week. I'm just saying, but New Orleans is the whole year been terrible.
Yeah.
If they're similar quarterbacks, the weapons, I'm going to take Winston.
That's fair.
It's very close.
Yeah, I agree. It's very, very similar with Winston and Evans, Jackson, and
In
Fitzpatrick.
6-point touchdown leagues, there has only been one game all season that New Orleans has not given up 20 points, and that was still 18. So, yeah, I guess I lean with my own start of the week, Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston. Okay. We got Frank in Ann Arbor. Hello. I am playing my wife in the first round of the playoffs, and I cannot withstand and possible embarrassment of losing to her. In my flex, should I start Jeremy Maclin versus the Chargers? Notorious Javorius Allen, his name is apparently not Javorius. It's
Javoris.
Javoris. That's just not as fun.
Javoris.
Yeah, thank you.
Doesn't
Buck Allen versus the Seahawks, or Doug Martin versus the Saints.
Wait, what? I was like tracking with Jeremy Maclin. Okay, it's all right. Javoris, all right. Well, that's a bad matchup. And then
Or
it's like,
then they're in a clear-
or the great option, the top 5 back on the year with a great matchup. Frank, don't worry about losing to your wife this week unless the rest of your roster stinks. Doug Martin is gonna be fine.
Yeah, there's no way I'm shying away from Doug Martin in this situation. George in Tampa. Hey guys, it's playoff time. Thanks for the breaking news, George. Appreciate that. Need one more receiver to start on my team for playoffs. Who do you suggest? This is standard scoring. Brandon Cooks versus the Bucks. Danny Amendola versus the Texans. John Brown versus the Vikings. Devontae Parker versus the Giants.
I'm gonna go. You got it.
Yeah, that's where I was thinking.
I
mean,
feel like this is pretty
I would
easy.
sit John Brown down.
Okay.
I would sit Brandon Cooks down.
Really?
Why would you sit Cooks down? He's been on fire.
He has been on fire, but the Bucks are a good pass D. I mean, they don't.
You know who else is the good pass D? The Carolina Panthers.
Sure. Here's what I would do. I would play Danny Amendola versus the Texans, who are good, but the New England Patriots, they score a lot of points. When they're playing bad, they score a lot of points. When they're playing great, they score a ton of points. Danny Amendola has been used. He's been tried and true. He's getting the receptions. So I don't see why I wouldn't play Amendola.
6 touchdowns in the last 5 games.
Yeah,
For Brandon Cooks.
Breaking news. In our scoring system, Brandon Cooks is a wide receiver 1.
I'm taking Brandon Cooks. Because of all the reasons I like Jameis Winston against New Orleans, I think the Saints will be back in that shootout. I'm gonna bank on a shootout.
I'm going to go with Cooks as well.
But I mean, I think an argument can easily be made for everybody. Ethan in New Jersey, what do you think about playoff reseeding? The NFL does it. Shouldn't our fantasy leagues do it as well?
There's an argument for it, but there's something that I really like about being able to add another layer of strategy in there by knowing and being able to look a week or two in advance of like, oh, I'm playing this guy in that week. I know he needs a tight end. If you got to play the entire field, I feel like it takes an element of strategy that I really enjoy in the playoffs out. So I would vote no reseeding.
Yeah, I lean towards no reseeding because once you're into the second round of the playoffs, all the teams left should have strong rosters. Now, there's outliers all the time for life, so there could be an outlier team in your playoffs. But for the most part, you're going to have 4 really strong teams left in the second round of the playoffs. And like Jason said, that being able to know, okay, this guy, this is who I'm coming up against in a week. This is who I'm going to be playing in 2 weeks. There is an element of planning that I can use with that information. So that's how I like it.
Yeah, that's fair. I think, like Jason said, there are different arguments for it. I think in some regards, I like the idea of reseeding because as a top seed, you always feel like you deserve to play the least good team. Is that the proper way to put it?
The problem with that, for let's say our league, we have 3 divisions. A division leader gets a top 3 seed automatically. Now in our league, the 3rd division winner has a worse record than the wild card
the
teams.
6th seed.
So are they necessarily a better or worse team because they're a higher ranked seed?
No, but you're right. But the NFL doesn't reseed division leaders. They reseed after week 1 of the playoffs.
Right.
Which is what I think you would want to do in that situation. But I'm fine either way. So do we have any other questions here? Are we done?
I think that's it.
All right, that's it for the show today. Thanks for listening. Tomorrow we'll have our fantasy forecast, our starts of the week. Get you ready for week 14 in those playoffs. Let us know your playoff stories on Twitter. You can also check out the website, thefantasyfootballers.com, and we'll keep it going for you all season, all playoffs long,
all year.
Always here. At the FF Ballers on Twitter.
Don't
you can
stop.
follow Jason at JasonFFL.
Can't
Follow
stop.
Mike at FF Hitman. Follow me at Andy Holloway.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at www.thefantasyfootballers.com and follow us on Twitter at the FF Ballers.